Good morning. Welcome to Time in His Word. How many of us are guilty of assuming something before we know the facts? I know I am. I readily admit that. There's times I see things out here on the road and I think one way or another without ever knowing that person or that individual's circumstances that put them there. For instance, yesterday in Houston, I was in the downtown area, older section of town, delivering to this steel mill. And as I round, the streets were tight, and delivering to little businesses like that in a semi with a 53-foot trailer is not fun. It's challenging. So I was maneuvering around this turn, and off to the right was an open lot where you could see where a building had once stood. There were still parts of the floor left and concrete pad. But then this was a pretty good size field. I'd say about a half of a football field, 50 yards squared. And there was a large number of camping tents there, 25, 30. And you could tell it's homeless people. They were on the corners and whatnot. And first thing I did was make sure my doors were locked. And because we all assume, and we've seen it on the news, homelessness and crime go together. But yet, we're not to judge. But yet, it's hard to do when we see things like that. And like I said, I readily admit, first thing I did was make sure my door was locked and was a little bit more cautious of my surroundings before I got out of the truck or what have you. And then the truck stop that I parked at last night, used to never worry about things like that, but over the years it's gotten pretty rough over here this side of town. But there's not a lot of truck stops in Houston, and I was lucky enough to get a parking place. But again, I was uneasy. I just didn't know what it just didn't have that safe feeling like it had years ago. But and those are just the times that we're living in. And we have to make the best of them. But more importantly, and I have to remember this myself as well, is we don't judge others who we see in dire circumstances or maybe not doing as well financially as we are. We shouldn't be judging them. We should be lifting up in prayer. But praying for them was the farthest thing from my mind yesterday. I was just, I was like, I hate to be in their shoes. I hate to know what put them there. But I never did lift them up in prayer. So I guess I'm guilty of being judgmental. In Matthew, the seventh chapter, verses 1 and 2, it says this: "Do not judge so that you will not be judged. For in the way you judge, you will be judged. And by your standard of measure, it will be measured to you." Kind of rough words to read this morning after what I seen yesterday and what I just described. I see them in encampments in large cities a lot where I travel, more so now than, say, 10 years ago. Were they there 10 years ago? Probably, but they just weren't out in the open like they are now. But the one thing I need to do for myself, and I need to remember this, is rather than looking down on them or making sure my door's locked or going, boy, I hope whatever happened to them doesn't happen to me. As a Christian man, I should be lifting them up in prayer and praying that God, somebody whose passion and ministry is to take care of the homeless, is able to help them. That's what I should have done, but I didn't do. Do not be judged so that you will not be judged. For in the way you judge, you will be judged, and by your standard of measure, it will be measured to you.